Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Friday, the 11th of July, all day. You join myself and Mr. Michael Brown for the morning blast, where, as usual, we will give you a preview of the day before, a review of the day to come. Maybe put a smile on your face, maybe, I don't know, bit of a swearing. Mr. Potty Mouth, Mr. Brown will, need to wash his mouth out with soap, etc., etc. But before he does, I'll get the legals out of the way. Nothing discussed in the space session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, or Mr. Michael Brown. Mr. Michael Brown, how are you?
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, everyone. I'm a little bit tired this morning, but otherwise not too bad at all. It
Well,
is
well, well, well. When you say tired, do you mean hungover?
Do you know, I'm not hungover. I just haven't had
I
much
am.
sleep. I think we're both a bit fragile this morning, aren't we?
Yes, yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm very glad this isn't video.
Oh no. Oh God.
I may have a KFC on my chest.
Oh, oh
Anyway, moving
God.
on.
Sorry, I've suddenly started feeling slightly queasy once again. Sorry, what do I mean once again? The first time.
um, Go on. What happened yesterday?
Uh, Butt knows. Yeah, I was left the desk at about 1:30 yesterday to disappear into a meeting room, and
Ah,
came back about 20 minutes ago. So your
oh,
guess is as good
part-time
as mine.
Brown.
Indeed, I'm sure Zach will be sending a message about me slacking off, but I'll have him know I am sat here in the office, so there's no need to shoot those accusations my way this morning. Anyway. As for where markets are this morning, in terms of the main catalyst, Trump has been launching another tirade on the trade front overnight, saying that he's going to impose a 35% tariff on goods coming from Canada, effective on the 1st of August, but that they will keep the tariff exemption for USMCA goods. This was clarified later by a US official, so that will exempt quite a significant degree of trade from the 35% tariff. Trump, also on the issue of trade, was touting a potential blanket 20% tariff for other countries around the world. And he also said that the EU will be receiving a letter informing them of new tariff rates by the close of business today. That is an interesting headline because I think we mentioned on this call yesterday that sort of optimism around a potential US-EU deal had been growing, given that the EU hadn't been sent a letter. Well, it seems like they are now going to be sent a letter. And of course, when we last heard Trump talking about tariffs on the EU, he was touting a potential levy as high as 50%. So certainly something worth bearing in mind there. Also on the trade front, we have literally in the last 5 minutes or so had reporting by Bloomberg noting that Vietnam have apparently been caught off guard by President Trump announcing a trade deal with them last week. Vietnam had been pushing for a tariff between 10 and 15%. And of course, Trump last week announcing that they had agreed a trade deal with a tariff of 20%, but up to 40% on so-called transshipments. So it seems that just a week after agreeing a trade deal, Vietnam are now trying to renegotiate that trade deal to bring tariffs even lower. So not entirely sure what's going on there, but I think that just speaks to, frankly, the shambles that the whole situation has descended into at this point. Away from the issue of trade, we did have the weekly US jobless claims numbers out yesterday. Initial claims at 227,000 in the week to the 5th of July. Continuing claims at 1.965 million in the prior week. That was unchanged from the previous print. Again, just further putting to bed any jitters about the state of the US labour market, following on from the solid US jobs report that we had last Thursday. One thing that isn't solid, though, is the latest UK GDP figures. GDP contracting by 0.1% on a month-on-month
No.
basis in May. On a 3-month rolling basis, GDP now at 0.5%, down from 0.7% previously. And I would like to just read out a quote here from one Rachel Reeves, which says, "New GDP figures see dramatic drop to minus 0.1%. This adds to the worries families already face from the cost of living crisis. If the PM and Cabinet come back from their away day in Staffordshire with anything less than an emergency budget, they will have failed." Would you like to know when that quote was from?
Tell me.
May 2022.
There we go.
So I would
There's,
assume
I was going to say there's always a tweet, but there's always a quote.
I would assume, given that the Labour cabinet are having an away day today, that Rachel Reeves will be coming back with an emergency budget on Monday, given her prior protestations. But certainly won't hold my breath
All good
on that
words.
one. I'm surprised I managed to say that word, to be completely honest with you.
So, I'm surprised I managed to understand what it meant, to be honest.
Other than the data in terms of headlines over the last 24 hours or so, speaking of things that are a shambles, the UK's Office for National Statistics, they are going to be reinstating the full PPI and services PPI data in October.
Right.
Of course, this data was paused back in March because the ONS
But it
realised that
was
it was
shit house.
completely wrong, and it has been wrong for the last 4.5 years. They have restated a whole bunch of things, done various bits and bobs with the statistical analysis, and they're going to start republishing that in October. Of course, the list of things that the ONS can't do right is incredibly long. At this moment in time, not only is it PPI, it's also trade that they can't get accurately. I think they've also, well, obviously the labour market numbers that they've been in a complete shambles with for the last 3 years or so as well. So I won't be holding my breath for the data there to be accurate. Other notable headlines, we did have quite a lot of Fed speak yesterday. We did hear from Governor Christopher Waller, who is of course potentially in the running to be the new Fed chair. He was talking about how, well, it was a very technical speech, to be completely honest with you. He was talking about the balance sheet and saying that a balance sheet at $5.8 trillion might be the right level to aim for, and that reserves in the United States should be at $2.7 trillion versus the current $3.3 trillion. This is something that, frankly, only Zach Eisman is interested in, and he's not on the call, so I don't really know why I'm mentioning it, to be honest with you. We also heard from 2025 voter Goolsby, who was saying that basically there is cloudy and a lot of economic uncertainty on the outlook, and that the Fed are firmly in a wait-and-see mode at this moment in time. The Fed's daily reiterating that, saying that the economy is in a good place with jobs growth solid and inflation continuing to ease. Daly has previously suggested that she would be in favour of a rate cut in the autumn, but of course she does not vote until 2027. And lastly, from me this morning, a crude headline, not in terms of puns, in terms of the black stuff, which Ryan used to trade.
Oh, stop it.
Bloomberg reporting yesterday that OPEC Plus is reportedly discussing pausing their output hikes from October. Of course, this would be at the point when all of the 2.2 million barrels per day of voluntary cuts have been unwound. These delegates that Bloomberg was citing, noting that the cartel will likely wait for, quote, some time before they move on to reverse another layer of halted production, which amounts to roughly 1.7 million barrels per day. And of course, this comes back to your long-running point, Ryan, about effectively what we're seeing at the moment is OPEC in a bit of a war for market share as opposed to the
Operation market share.
indeed, as opposed to the sort of traditional focus on propping up prices. And for the time being, that is all from me.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. Before I hand back to you, let's rattle through some, well, a little bit of a roundup from the overnight news roundup, courtesy of Zach Eisman. Although he's not listening, he's
Where
probably
I think
hungover.
you need to have a word with young Zach. His attendance on these calls has
Yeah, do
fallen
you
off
know
a
what?
cliff
It's been,
recently.
yeah, I think it's only been one time this week.
Absolute
Little
disgrace.
shithouse. But anyway, he's not here but in spirit he's here because it was him that put this together. So trade summary, US tariff news, Trump, I'm reading this with one eye closed because I can't really see very much at the
God.
moment. Trump announced a 35% tariff on Canadian goods effective August the 1st by Truth Social, separate from sectorial tariffs. He also told NBC News that the EU will receive a tariff notification today or tomorrow, with remaining countries facing 15 to 20% tariffs. Brazilian President Lula vowed to reciprocate if Trump's 50% tariff threat on Brazilian exports is implemented, while Japan's Prime Minister Shiba emphasized reducing resilience on US trade amid tariff concerns. In US-China trade tensions, US Secretary of State Rubio will meet with China's foreign minister in Kuala Lumpur today, their first in-person meeting amid trade frictions. And the US apparently is
Anything?
pressing South. Pardon?
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
I was swearing at my computer. It wasn't working.
Okay. The
Sorry.
US is pressing South Korea to curb China's trade influence, particularly in shipbuilding. In commodities trading, Trafigura, Mercuria, and Glencore are poised to earn $300 million in profits after shipping record copper volumes to the US ahead of the tariffs. Michael's got a nice chart for that. Japan and China trade a new what? A new animal health agreement enables Japan to resume beef exports to China. That was halted in 2001. Macro highlights in US policy. The White House criticized Fed Chair Powell again for mismanaging the central bank, citing deficits, renovation cost overruns. Not that he's the one with the paintbrush doing the renovating, but there you
Can I just
go. The US state. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in on the Fed and this whole issue with Trump, ranting away every day about Jay Powell and too late Powell, as he keeps calling him. I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday, and I can't.
Oh God.
No, it was a rare positive LinkedIn post or useful LinkedIn post. It really annoyed. I can't remember who it was. So if anyone is familiar with this, do send it over. But basically, what they were saying was the way that Trump views interest rates is classic for a real estate developer, which is ultimately what he
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
basically, in real estate, the biggest buildings, the most beautiful buildings, the best buildings, you can borrow against them
Big, beautiful buildings.
exactly. You can borrow against them at the lowest rates. He is basically looking at the US economy through the same lens, where the only thing that
Yeah.
influences the interest rate is the quality of credit. Whereas actually that's, complete nonsense at a sovereign level, as we all know. That's a very, very
Yeah.
small piece of the puzzle. But I think that just speaks to, as you alluded to, the post that he made yesterday, where he goes too late, which is obviously Jay Powell, demeans the great credit of of the USA. We are now again the number one credit in the world. The Fed rate should be reflective of this. He's basically treating the US as if it were a fucking skyscraper.
Well, but end of the day, he is a real estate man. Let's be honest. No, absolutely. Yeah, that is a very valid point. Well, and to be fair, it's something that we've mentioned many times in the past. But yeah, where was it? U.S. State Department. They're planning to fire hundreds of employees following a Supreme Court ruling allowing mass job cuts. Regarding China's economy, China's export growth likely rose in June as exporters front-loaded shipments, fearing U.S. tariffs. Academics urge 1.5 trillion yuan, that's 209 billion in real money, dollars, and stimulus to counter tariff impacts. Chinese banks are shifting away from dollar demand and struggling with consumer credit defaults, that's according to Bloomberg. And the Shanghai regulator is exploring stablecoin strategies, signaling a crypto policy shift. One for Cam talks. I know he said Cam talks cars. Tom talks
Oh,
cars.
well, I'm sure
One,
he could talk cars, but
yeah, one for Cam and Tom talks cars later on. That's what I was trying to say. Global markets. Goldman Sachs raised its Asian stock forecast, citing a favourable macro environment. The UK economy contracted second month in May, raising concerns about momentum. And everyone's favourite UK Chancellor Reeves is reviewing budget reforms and pausing cash ISA changes. Other economic news. Japan's June core inflation likely stayed above 2%. That's according to a Reuters poll, pressuring the BOJ for rate hikes amid tariff risks. Malaysia's industrial growth that slowed, prompting a rate cut. And Argentina, their Senate passed a spending bill threatening Milei's austerity packages. But he plans to veto that anyway. In geopolitical news, on the US-Russia-Ukraine front, Trump plans a, quote, major statement, unquote, on Russia on Monday as the US prepares more arms shipments to Ukraine via NATO. In the Red Sea, Houthi attacks on commercial ships deter ship owners from trade route without naval protection. Military moves, Germany will buy 15 more F-35 jets, increasing the fleet to 50. South Korea, Japan and the US holding or have held a joint air drill with US B-52 bombers. And finally, for me, before I hand back to you in equity news, tech, Google will discount cloud services for the US government amid pressure to cut contract prices. Tesla, they opened their first Indian showroom in Mumbai. That's despite high import tariffs. Levi Strauss, they've raised guidance due to strong demand and direct to consumer sales. Panasonic, they've delayed full capacity at the US EV battery plant due to Tesla weak sales. BP, they expect higher Q2 production and strong oil trading. What else we got? Financials, Mitsubishi UFJ, they plan to expand its securitization business in North America, increasing headcount by 25%. And finally, for me, before I head back to you, in Chinese subsidy news, Cherry and BYD may repay subsidies after an audit found irregularities. And that's it for
Oh,
me. Back to you in the studio.
very good. Perfect timing. I just sneezed, so you finished just in time for me to recover from that.
Oh,
Very good.
bless you.
Thank you, Ryan. You got through that very well, given the circumstances.
Oh, God, it was a struggle.
I know how you feel. Um, right, what am I doing today?
I don't know.
No,
Pub?
nor do I. Yeah. Are there any open at 8:45?
Yep,
I'm sure the
railway.
Cross Keys over the road will be open.
Yep.
Um, God. Right, today, where are we? Friday. I'm just stalling it because my bloody economic calendar won't load. Oh, there we go. Right, we're here. What have we got today? Canadian employment. That is basically the only thing on the docket this afternoon at 1:30, the latest Canadian jobs report. Employment is expected to have been flat in terms of the net change on a month-on-month basis in June compared to the 8,800 gain that we saw in May. Unemployment, that is, those seen ticking higher to 7.1% from a prior 7%. Money markets going into that Canadian employment data pricing around a 3 in 10 chance that the Bank of Canada deliver a 25 basis point rate cut at their next meeting on the 30th of July, although a full 25 basis point cut is not discounted until December. Other than that, there is not really too much on the data docket. We do hear from the Fed's Gouldsby. He'll be speaking at 6 o'clock this evening because the day ends with a Y, so of course he's going to be speaking. We also are due to hear from the ECB's Panetta, Vujic and Cipollone through the European morning. And of course, given that it is a Friday, the usual warning around the potential for weekend gapping risk, but be that on trade, geopolitical headlines or anything else, obviously still stands, particularly with Trump sending out further tariff letters, including potentially to the EU before close of play today. And for this morning and for this week, that is all from me.
Magnificent, Mr. Brown. Absolutely magnificent. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in. We really do appreciate you. Michael, I will see you in a few hours for a pint. And yeah, whatever you're doing this weekend, stay safe. Try and stay out of trouble. If you can't stay out of trouble, use protection, and we'll see you all on Monday.
Oh, God.
Bye
Goodbye.
bye.